Starting all over again, it's gonna be rough on us, but we're gonna make it. It's Breakfast with Bob.
Honcho Man, bring it the only way you can, buddy. Thank you so much. This is Breakfast with Bob, the Not Quite Kona edition. We are brought to you by Hoka One One, Credo Tri, Four Seasons for Walleye, Challenge Daytona, Form Goggles, Canyon Bikes, Normatec, Amp Human, VeloFix You Can, and our Challenged Athletes Foundation. Our next guest coming off a third place at Ironman Cairns just a couple weeks ago, 8:18:38, Mr. Josh Amberger. How you doing, Josh?
I'm good, Bob. I'm great.
Love it. So you are in a house that you and Ashley designed?
Yeah, definitely. So we kind of got our dream block of land a few years ago, and it took a while to get it built, but all moved in now and absolutely loving it.
That is so fun. So you could make it specific to an athlete. What's different in your house than the average person?
I think we just, with having control with the design, we gave ourselves plenty of room for bikes. And actually now it's funny, I think we're starting to run out of room. But we might end up being one of those houses where they have to they park the cars outside rather than inside. Because we're slowly creeping into the car space. But no, we got plenty of room for bikes and storage, stupid things like bike bags that take up a ton of room.
They do.
Good training room. So very happy.
And you guys during the COVID deal, you've been doing some camping, heading out to the beach and camping Aussie style?
Yeah, so not yet actually, Bob. That's something we've been really looking forward to because Australia went into pretty heavy lockdowns early on, and they actually closed off all the national parks.
Yeah.
So they just basically did everything they could to discourage you from leaving home. So we couldn't travel interstate. Couldn't really go on holidays anywhere because most of the places were closed. So now that's all open again in Australia here. So and we finished the last race. So I was pretty happy to get Ironman Cairns out of the way last week, and now we're definitely looking forward to a holiday Aussie style in the next couple of weeks, which basically means camping on the beach, super cruisy and laid back.
That's great. So you four-wheel drive, you drive into wherever you can get to, and there's no other people around, catch your own fish, hunt bears, all that type of stuff.
Don't know about bears, maybe. I'd say koala bears, but we're not really hunting them. They're too cute. Definitely it's like that. Lots of fishing. We don't really have always the perfect days fishing. We're not super amazing fishermen, but we can generally get the job done.
So if you're going to design the perfect course for you, right, perfect triathlon course, I do look at Alcatraz because it's tough swim. Right, tough swim. You've got to navigate. You can't it's not like there's buoys every 5 feet. In fact, I don't think there's any. And then you're a really good cyclist, but it's not a really long bike, but the run is challenging. When you look at what would be the best course for you, if you've designed your own house, if you're going to design a course for you, what would it be?
I think, to be honest, like Alcatraz isn't too far off the mark. I think if I look back at my favorite races, it's probably not Ironman races. It's probably a short race like Alcatraz.
Yeah.
I've raced it 4 or 5 times now, and actually third place is the best I've been able to do there. Definitely like the swim is like so cool. I mean, there's there's still like a really big element of adventure to that race that I love. And the bike course is really technical. Some corners and downhills and descents where you can really send it. The run's obviously super hard, very variable terrain, trail, sand, crazy sand stairs, really steep downhill. So it's super fun. I love that race. And I don't know, maybe if I was to design a course, we've got here in Brisbane in Australia, we've got a local climb called the Goat Track, and it's about 2 miles long, about 10% gradient, and it's all gravel. But it's like on a popular, route for your road bike or your tri bike. So I think I'm pretty handy on the gravel climbs, on the tri bike. So if I could design my perfect course, probably we might have a gravel climb in it. And that's very on trend these days. Everyone's talking gravel. So, and I also love trail running. So to be honest, I should probably give Xterra a go.
I was just thinking that you're basically designing Xterra. It's like, okay, most of the Xterra guys aren't great swimmers. So you immediately gap the world in the swim, and then mountain bike and tough mountain, they're always tough. And the run's always tough. So that sounds, and talk adventure, that's the ultimate.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's interesting though. Like I've never really done an Xterra race. I've always, of course, been very focused for on-road performance. And I think growing up as a young Australian athlete, obviously with many other Australians to contend against for, media and publicity and stuff, I've always just been focused 100% on the road. And I think that I'm kind of more the free-spirited athlete. I can see myself doing those things, but I've always just generally been very focused on going race to race on the road to try and get results.
Yes. So when you look back at the races you have done, what course do you think does suit you the best besides Alcatraz? And when you go to Kona, and it's not really a technical bike, the swim is so it's really tough to get that big a gap on anybody there. And the run is, the run is the run. Does that course suit you well?
It does a little bit. I think for me, running being my weakest leg, a hilly run course is not overly good for me. So last year I went and raced 70.3 Worlds in Nice, and on paper I thought that the course was perfect for me, being quite a challenging bike, and a flat run. I thought that was perfect. Whereas some of the other 70.3 Worlds, the run's been quite undulating. If I think back to Vegas or Mont Tremblant, those kind of courses, they were not good for me at all. And that was when I was focusing primarily on 70.3.
Right.
But I absolutely got my ass handed to me last year in Nice. So I kind of walked away. I remember seeing Javi Gomez at the airport, and we were both kind of like, well, I thought that was a perfect course. He was like, I thought that was perfect course for me. And I'm like, yeah, I thought the same thing. But, it was one of my worst results at 70.3 Worlds for 8 years. So, it was kind of a bit of a head scratcher. I think probably I'm still trying to find that perfect course for me, I think.
Well, yeah, you think about it, that had that big, nasty climb in the center of it, which spreads people out. And then having that flat run would be good. But the swim really didn't spread anybody out. Everybody was pretty much together out of the water. You need California racing and Australia racing, surf, right? All the races, they don't do surf much anymore, right? Most of the races.
I like that.
So last year, Kona, when I look at Kona, and you obviously was not your best day in Kona, but you always learn something about yourself when you have those type of days, because you still hung in there. And a lot of people start thinking when they know they're out of the money, they're already booking their flights to Arizona and Florida. They're already thinking about, okay, it's not happening today. I'm going to go race somewhere else. Why stay in, right? Why stay in the race? And what did you gain from that experience?
I think it's funny. This is fresh in my mind, racing Ironman last weekend. Every time I do an Ironman race, like I basically tell myself the way I am able to get through the race is by telling myself that it's probably going to be my last one. And after this, I'm done. And it's funny. I thought the same thing last year. And, probably about the time I got into the energy lab where it started getting super tough, I'm like, yep, I'll just finish this race and I'm done with Ironman. You know, I'm not one of those athletes who's already planning where I'm going to go next, Arizona or Busselton or any of those late Ironmans. It's like if I do an Ironman, it's 100% commitment for that race.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not really thinking about anything that comes after it. So, you know, I think that also tells me, I'm there to finish I'm there to do the race. I'm there to finish. I'm not really there to hope that I'm going to get through it and get a result and go to a plan B and, you know, look at racing 2 or 3 weeks later. I know a lot of athletes have already entered races, like backup races to do. So, yeah, you know, I like to respect the race, particularly something like Kona. You know, I'm always going to finish. If it's not my day, I'm always going to be there to finish it. And you know, I remember I'm in South Africa a couple of years ago seeing someone like Ben Hoffman. He actually walked the marathon. He had a back injury.
Yeah, back injury. Yeah.
Yeah, and seeing him walking like with a glow stick at like 6 or 7 p.m. in the dark was like, man, like there's been times where I've been close to pulling out, but I can't believe he's still going. So I see something like that, and it's a good kick up the arse to always remind you to finish the race and respect the race.
I think I read somewhere, you know, could be worse. Last time I finished with shit in my suit. So
yeah, there's been some of those. Some of those times in the past for sure. So last week in Cairns, I actually stopped at the Portaloo, so that was a good thing.
Well, let's talk about that. I mean, so you had Max Newman wins it and 8:13, and Tim Van Berkel 8:15, and then you're right there at 8:18. So you're in the race all day long. That's fun when it's a race, when you got 3 guys and you're all sort of going for it. Well, what was that experience like? You have, especially coming off of Kona, to come and sort of kick off what's been a difficult season for everybody with a great race like that.
Yeah, definitely. You know, it's Ironman Cairns was originally in June, and they postponed it to September. And you know, I've been training more or less with this race in mind, knowing that if Ironman Cairns is on, I should probably do it.
Yeah.
But I didn't actually believe that it would be on maybe until 2 or 3 weeks before the race. So it was extremely hard to kind of get motivated to train for it. And when it was kind of obvious that it was definitely going to be on, it's like, okay, holy shit, I got to
I better get ready.
I got to get in the mindset for this. So whereas I know the other guys like Max Newman, he's gone all there for 6 months. Like I see him at the pool most days. He lives near me. He's been so focused for this race. And so I think the athletes in that race, we're all in a different mindset. And I think that kind of reflected the results at the end of the day. I gave it my best shot on the day, but probably wasn't as willing to hurt as Max Newman. And Tim Van Berkel actually went into quarantine for 2 weeks before the race so he could come and do it. So
wow.
So that was massive for him, and I take my hat off to those guys. But yeah, it was definitely tight racing, and it was super exciting. You know, if there was coverage, it would have been a really good race to watch, because it was kind of like a good ding dong battle. But the conditions there were actually quite extreme. It was pretty much like Kona conditions, so it was like super tough race. And I actually come away with that with some good like nutrition and hydration experience in those conditions for hopefully Kona next year.
When I look at the 257 marathon, you got to be happy with that, especially when you have not really been that focused on the run, right?
Yeah, so it's funny, the marathon times like that, it was 257 is okay. It's not, of course, it didn't really deserve to win the race, you know. Ironman these days, it's kind of like 250 or below you need to be at. That's the level to win a race. But because of, you know, COVID, they have to make, you know, I guess more or less negotiate with the government for restrictions and stuff. So one of the one of the restrictions for the race was you couldn't actually be handed aid at the aid station. They'd lay it out on a table for you and you have to stop and get whatever you want. So in those conditions, every mile or every 2 kilometers, we were stopping literally, 10, 20 seconds at the aid station, walking, getting whatever we could. So the run, there was a lot of stopping, for special needs. We had to stop and go to a special area, unzip a cooler, get our stuff out of the cooler, zip the cooler up, put it back. So 2:57 marathon, definitely much faster if we didn't have to stop, multiple times every lap. But it's definitely something I need to improve for next year.
What's your happiest memory from your racing days?
Happiest memory. I think, it's amazing to win races, and the satisfaction you feel winning like a very tight competitive race kind of is really hard to beat as a professional, where we train to win and compete. So winning a tight race is always amazing. I think though also if racing's not, if I'm not winning, I guess there's moments of personal satisfaction more or less, where you get the sense that, you've seen something through, you've committed to a race, you've done the preparation, you've finished. So moments like that hit me is the first year I raced Kona, I think. I spent 2 or 3 hours at the front of the race by myself. I let out the swim. It was an incredible moment for me leading the race. And then it was about a 5-hour period where I just had to suffer to get to the finish line and finish the race. So obviously, coming down Hualalai, turning into elite. I forget all the names now. It's been but that finish line feeling was incredible. So if you're not, as a professional, if you're not in the race winning, it's the satisfaction of finishing for me is incredible.
Love it. Hey Josh, give our best to Ashley. Always a pleasure.
She's upstairs still sleeping.
Smart move. Smart move. Yeah. Great. Josh Amberger has been our guest. Josh, as always, thank you so much for joining us. And hopefully we'll see you next year with this backdrop.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Bob. It's nice to relive it through Zoom here from Australia.
Exactly. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Breakfast with Bob, not quite Kona edition. Hold on. We will be right back.